Welcome to Rica Subtest 2 online test preparation course presented by ricatest.com. Thank you so much for joining. In this lesson, you will learn everything that you need to know about competency number 12, which is understanding literal, inferential, and evaluative comprehension and factors affecting reading comprehension. Competency 12 is the introduction lesson to learning all about comprehension, where we'll continue to go more in depth in this topic with competencies 13, 14, and 15. To review, let's remember that comprehension is when you remember just what you've read. There are three different types of comprehension that you'll need to know for your Rica test, and these include literal comprehension, which is the ability of a reader to understand the surface meaning of a text. Remember here that the answers to literal comprehension questions are found directly in the text. Next, we have inferential comprehension, which is the understanding that something was implied through the text. The answers to inferential comprehension questions are not found in the text, and they require the reader to speculate or infer meaning. Evaluative comprehension is understanding the implications of a character or the lesson of the story by requiring the reader to make a judgment from the text. Answers to evaluative comprehension questions are also not in the text. Let's discuss aspects that affect reading comprehension. First, word analysis is the process of examining the elements and structure of a word. Reading fluency means reading words accurately at an appropriate rate with an appropriate intonation. In order to understand the way that word analysis and fluency affect comprehension, we have to remember that the goal of reading is to achieve automaticity, which is when a reader accomplishes two tasks. The first, to decode the words correctly, and second, understands the words that were read. If a reader struggles with word analysis or fluency, automaticity won't be reached because the student's reading is too choppy and too slow. This negatively affects reading comprehension because the student is focused on the act of reading the words, not understanding what they mean. Poor word analysis negatively affects reading comprehension. Lacking sufficient vocabulary within a text passage will also negatively affect the student's ability to comprehend the meaning of the passage. The importance of becoming familiar with academic language increases as students proceed to upper grades. A student who demonstrates knowledge of literal reading comprehension can do the following things. First, identify main ideas, retell details of the story, share sequences of a story, give cause and effect relationships, find patterns found in a story, and identify story grammar elements such as introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. In order to demonstrate knowledge of inferential reading comprehension, students can infer main ideas, comparisons, and cause and effect relationships that are not explicitly stated in the text. Drawing conclusions from generalizations of a text is also something done when students can infer the meaning. Students who demonstrate an understanding of evaluative comprehension show the ability to recognize instances of bias, unsupported assumptions, propaganda, and faulty reasoning in texts. They can distinguish facts and opinions in text, as well as react to a text content, characters, and use of language. Also, they can analyze story themes. Syntax is the order of words in a sentence. Syntax skills help students understand the way that sentences work. Syntax includes word order, structure, and pronunciation. Teaching syntax is important because research shows that developing syntax skills helps readers understand increasingly complex texts. Furthermore, syntactic skills are interconnected with reading and language comprehension, so there's a link between the two. Educational researchers have discovered that understanding syntax is a key predictor of later reading comprehension ability for our students. If you receive a question on your Rica test about how to teach syntax, use the instructional strategy called combining sentences. Start with words written on flashcards that are placed out of order. Allow students to independently or in small groups try to put the words in the correct order. Encourage students to explain the reasoning for their combining decisions. This will provide an opportunity for them to articulate how they are thinking about word order and sentence construction. As students enter higher grades, grammatical structures become increasingly more complex. The better a student understands the different structures of paragraphs and of texts, the better equipped the student will be to read and understand from a variety of text types. To provide a refresher, you will want to know the following types of sentence structures for your test. We have simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. A simple sentence structure has one independent clause. For example, I threw the ball. A compound sentence has two or more independent clauses. For example, I threw the ball, comma, and it broke the window. A complex sentence has one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. For example, the house owner cried because the ball broke the frame. A compound complex sentence has two or more independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. For example, the owner cried because the ball broke the window frame, comma, and I immediately apologized. Knowing paragraph structures and their common placements will allow students to understand whether they are reading a topic sentence and therefore should be comprehending the main idea of a passage, or whether the paragraph is providing an explanation, evidence, or a link. Now let's discuss the aspects of language that help students improve their reading comprehension. Children who show advanced understanding of oral language skills nearly always demonstrate an easier, more natural acquisition for written language. The strategic read aloud is an instructional strategy that positively affects the comprehension through listening. For some background information, students comprehend text at higher levels when a text is being read to them. This means that when modeled correctly by the teacher, the students can achieve more challenging comprehension tasks, such as inferential and evaluative comprehension. Now, let's have a look at the step by step instructional strategy for strategic read alouds. First, the teacher selects a book that is both interesting to the students and above their independent reading level. Then, before the teacher begins to read, the student should be able to see and read both the target vocabulary words as well as the comprehension checking questions written on the whiteboard. Next, the teacher shows the students the book and demonstrates book handling skills, such as looking at the front cover, the back cover, exploring the table contents, and more. The teacher reads the section of the book. Depending on the age, this might be page by page or chapter by chapter. After the passage is read by the teacher and the students have a discussion about the meaning of the target vocabulary words and comprehension questions. Discussion based on the text that students read enhance students' comprehension of what they've read. After the passage is read by the teacher and students have a discussion about the meaning of the target vocabulary used, as well as the comprehension checking questions that the teacher will ask. And that is the end of the strategic read aloud instructional strategy. Discussions based on the text that students read enhance students' comprehension of what they've just read. In order to facilitate effective text based discussions, a teacher can use the instructional conversation format. The goal for the teacher here is to check students' understanding of what is being read by asking open ended questions that allow students to explain their answer in conversation, hence, instructional conversations. The teacher might ask such questions as, "Tell me more about blank," or "What would you do in this scenario and why would you choose that?" Another text based instructional strategy you might use on the Rica test is called questioning the author. Here, the student reads a text passage and tries to analyze and understand the author's purpose of the written piece. The student should be given these 5 questions to answer. First, what is the author trying to tell you here? Second, why is the author giving you this information? Third, what information does the author directly tell you? Fourth, what's a way the author could have said that using a more clear way? And fifth, what would you do in this scenario? Students should write paragraphs about books and text passages that they read. Strategies that help students comprehend the text that they read include summarizing, outlining, and responding. A key factor here is simply recognizing that independent reading reinforces reading comprehension skills and strategies as well as promotes healthy, lifelong reading habits. There were a lot of concepts covered in this lesson, all about understanding literal, inferential, and evaluative comprehension and factors affecting reading comprehension. Remember that there are 3 types of comprehension. The first is literal comprehension, which is the ability of a reader to understand the surface meaning of a text. Second, we have inferential comprehension, which is the understanding that something was implied through the text. And third, we have evaluative comprehension, which is the understanding of the story through making a judgment from the text that was read. When a student struggles with any of the reading stages prior to comprehension, such as word recognition, background knowledge, vocabulary, academic language, or fluency, the student's reading will suffer. This causes frustration or a lack of focus, and it ultimately negatively affects reading comprehension. Knowing or not knowing text structures also highly impacts reading comprehension because children who understand the placement and meaning of paragraph structures will comprehend what they read even better. There are different modes that teachers will focus on in order to improve their students' reading comprehension, such as oral, listening, or text based. Use a strategic read aloud for listening. Using a strategic read aloud is great for listening, whereas using instructional conversations is great for text based. And then there is questioning the author, which is best for informational texts. Then, for a writing activity, using a summary is a great way for students to demonstrate their comprehension for a text. Now, remember, your Rica test will ask you one way to positively affect a student's reading comprehension using either listening or speaking or writing. So, you're going to want to know all of these to prepare for the test. Thank you so much for joining this Rica test lesson. When you're ready, go ahead, take the Competency 12 quiz to check your understanding for the test material. And we look forward to seeing you in the next